Have you dreamed of bigger things for your life?
Hi guys,
you are in the right place.
Welcome back to the show.
Each week you will
so
be
today
given
I will be
tips on
chatting
how to change your
with
inner dialogue,
Kate Moon,
conquer
who
your
is
goals, and
one of
ways
those
to step
people,
into a higher version of yourself.
Is just super,
I'm your host, Lauren Kubat.
Super
I'm a motivational speaker who hosts personal development events. I'm a sought-after fitness instructor, a wife, and a mom of 2 young boys.
And calming.
I'm obsessed with all things personal
good
development,
juju.
and I
But
believe
before we
anyone
get
can
into our
achieve the
chat,
life
I
they
want
want.
to let you know
Let
that
the
by
Become
time
Your
you're
Vision
hearing this,
podcast be
there's
the
only
inspiration
3
you
weeks
need to
left
step
to get your
into greater
ticket to the
things.
Become
Now
Your
let's
Vision
go.
Women's Conference. I just stopped selling tickets on September 18th. That's a week prior to the event. VIP has been sold out and there are some general admission left. So it's something that if you've been thinking about, I encourage you just to go for it. And I promise you, if you think this would be great, it's going to be. And it's going to be a day of empowerment and inspiration and connecting to other women, but also understanding yourself more and connecting to yourself more. So tickets are $47 and I'll leave all that information in the show notes. All I ask is for you to show up as yourself and I'll do the rest. So here is our interview. I have Kate Moon, who is a local Charleston yoga teacher, entrepreneur, and community leader. She is currently the director of yoga at KOR4 Elite Fitness, a new boutique fitness startup located in West Ashley, and the owner of Kate Moon Yoga LLC. Through her company, she is most known for her international yoga and self-study retreats, through which she seeks to help people understand who they are and how they show up in the world. Ooh, sounds so good. She is a legacy Lululemon ambassador and can be found in the Charleston community doing various pop-up yoga classes and events with other wellness leaders. Kate is known for her forthcoming in the community about her journey in sobriety in order to be a resource to those who might be seeking help, hope, and understanding. Thank you, Kate, for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Lauren. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So I think you're the third person I've had on who has discussed their sobriety journey. I had my mom on. I had Susan Perkins. She's an instructor at Gold Gym. And so I know so many people, listeners, related to those episodes. And I know they're going to relate to your story. I haven't heard your story, but I'm super excited about that. And we met a couple of weeks ago in the when you did yoga in the park, and it was just such a beautiful day. And you have a way of just, I don't know, like being a magnet. You attract people to you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know. I just love people. Mm-hmm. And I've grown to know that about myself, and through various jobs and just through years of growing into who I am, I feel like I've learned that I also naturally just kind of emerge in this leadership role, regardless of what job path I'm on or group I'm standing with. And it's really opened my eyes to who I am and how I show up, and how our voices, can be carried through one person, but can be carried as a whole together. So it's been a journey, and I loved having you out in the park that day. It was the perfect day. And I feel like I know a little bit about you through mutual friends. So I'm glad that we finally got connected.
Yeah, me too. So Q was the one. So if listeners love the Gunner, I had my phone with the episode. It was a couple episodes ago. And Gunner and Q from Gunner Made were both on. They just have such a funny and interesting dynamic. And Q came up to me and she was like, "Oh my gosh, you're going to love Kate. She's such a good story. You should totally have her on the podcast." And then you were so down. You're like, "Yeah, I would." Some people are like a little standoffish if they're more introverted, but you were game.
No, I'm a big believer in just sharing our stories as people, regardless of what the story is about. I think the more that we just talk about our lives, the more it normalizes what we go through. Mm-hmm. And that could be small things, big things, but it just gets people talking and connecting and looking around at each other like, "Oh, me too, me too." Yeah. And there needs to be more connection in this world, as opposed to as opposed to being apart from. I like to think of like being a part of. And I feel like that's what our community always needs more of, is being a part of. So when someone asks me like, hey, do you want to talk? Do you want to have coffee? Do you want to share who you are? And I'm like, yes, of course I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then it's just like, it supercharges other people to do the same thing.
So true. So true. So would you consider yourself introverted or extroverted?
Oh my gosh, a great question, because my job requires me to be so extroverted and carry an energy and share my emotions and take on other people's emotions, that when I'm done for the day, I am phone off, turned over on the table. I don't want to talk. And I also am shut off from listening for the most part. So I feel like I'm a little bit of both, but when it comes down to it, what I really want to do, like this weekend, I'm booking an Airbnb for 2 nights to just go be by myself and just reset and get re-inspired. And I love traveling alone, like doing my own thing. So in that way, I feel like I'm a huge introvert, because I feel one of my favorite days that I've ever had on this earth, I maybe said 5 words to people all day, and I just walked the streets of Belgium by myself, and it was perfect. It was perfect.
I am like, oh, just picturing like just getting an Airbnb. I talked to my husband about this, and it's more so as I've gotten older. And then for me, once having like kids, and then also I have a job where I'm talking constantly. And at the end of the day, yeah, like you said, you just want to like tune everything out, because you feel like you're constantly on, and you are. I teach group fitness classes as well. And you take on other people's energy and you try to give out a certain energy that it's, it's draining. It's like, it's so much fun, but it's also can be very, very draining. And, an Airbnb somewhere. I'm going to
Yes,
do.
you have to.
Yes.
And actually Q and Gunnar have been huge in telling me like, Kate, you have to do this for yourself. You have to refill your cup. You have to get away to get inspired, or just take time to yourself so that you can show up and be the best for other people. And I try and do those things here locally, and I'm really good about it, because I always want to be someone who tries at their fullest to practice what they preach, rest and giving back to yourself and filling your cup. But to just get away for even just a night or two, something close by, Savannah or, Jacksonville Beach or Charlotte, something, go take a yoga class out of city and just feel like you could just be there for a day. And I don't know.
Where are you going?
Well, so I'm a little irritated at myself, because I was going back to Jacksonville Beach, and I say back to, because that's where I went to college.
Okay.
But I haven't been there since college.
Is it Florida?
Yes. I'm
okay. I was like, I thought, I feel like this is going to sound stupid. Okay. Wanted to make
yes,
sure.
I am. There's a Jacksonville in North Carolina as well. So easily to be confused. But I was heading down there, and I waited too long to book this amazing Airbnb on the beach, and now it's booked. So I'm either going to go to Savannah or to Charlotte. And the only reason I would go to Charlotte is because they have some yoga studios, where Savannah's kind of slim pickings.
Okay.
So
that'll be nice. See. Either one is going to be a great choice.
For the moment, just live on the edge a little bit.
Yes. Yes, for sure. I love that. So how do you know Gunnar and Q?
I actually first met Gunnar. I knew of Q from the yoga community.
Okay.
He taught at a place downtown that I was friends with the owner, but I had never really met her in person. And then I DM'd Gunnar for a personal training session a few years ago. Okay. And it was when I was a director at Hilo, but there was something about, again, needing to give back to myself. And I loved working out at Hilo. But when I was working out there, I had to be on, right? Because people knew that I worked there. So even if I went on an off day, it was like clients wanted to talk and do this and do that. So I reached out to Gunnar and said, you know what? I need to get out of my own house. and I need to do something really good for myself. So I started personally training with Gunner, and then that kind of fell off once quarantine hit and all that kind of stuff. And then eventually I got to know Q through him, through all of his photo shoots and marketing that she was doing. And then I actually came to hire Q on at Hilo as a yoga teacher. So then she was a part of my yoga team. And then our relationships have just really blossomed from there.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I saw that you went on like a mentor date. So is he your mentor?
I say that he probably wouldn't say that he is, but he is so full of knowledge. Granted, he is more than a decade younger than me, which I hate to admit, but he's young and successful. And I am just starting off building my own personal business. I've been doing the Kate Moon Yoga thing for a while, and I've hosted retreats for a few years now, but I'm really just planning my roots as far as what does my business look like and what avenues do I want to go down? And he has been very insightful and very knowledgeable when it comes to prioritizing things as far as establishing myself and making sure financially I'm set up for success. And really, he's just walking me through his own experience and also going above and beyond and setting me up with other networks in the community as far as financial advisors. And he set me up with Q. They came to one of my yoga retreats in Mexico earlier this year. And Q said, hey, this is what I do on the side. So I got invested in her, and she's helping me build out the back end of my business right now, kind of streamlining emails and all that kind of stuff, where I was a color coding spreadsheet kind of gal because I'm old school, but she's got all these systems in place. And so he has provided me with a lot of guidance when it comes to less is more, or invest in these people to do what you're not strong at so that you have more energy to do what you're really good at.
Totally.
And because it can be scary. You're only making a little bit of money as a startup. And so to then turn around and reinvest that money is very scary. And so he's really given me a lot of guidance in that. So it's been wonderful. So yeah, he mentors me in that, but I would also say that I mentor him when it comes to, certain things in mindfulness and in movement as well, and in a yogic lifestyle sense.
I love that. And I think as business owners, now a lot of my listeners, there are some business owners, but even in the mindset of like personal development, it's like when you take the initiative and you believe that you are worth investing in, whether it's personal training or a nutrition program, or as far as business coaches and mentors, or even therapy, it's like you get way more out of it than you put in. And it took me so long to realize that. And I am the same way. So beginning business, but I've invested so much into my business this year because I believe in it. And it's like, when you do that, you're going to make that back 10 times the amount in more ways than one, whether it's financially or through connections or experience. Like, so everything you're saying, I'm like, yes, because yes.
Yeah, it's scary, but it's exciting all at once. And, Q has become like one of my best friends through this process, and one of my biggest supporters. And she's so uplifting and such a good reminder of like that I deserve it.
Right.
She's like, you deserve to have your voice heard, or you deserve to be successful in whatever success means to you. That's for you to define, but like, let me help you get there. And it's just been an incredible experience so far. And we're just getting started.
Started, baby. I love it.
Started.
Yes. And when somebody sees that in you, they know you have something. They're like, this can be taken to so many other levels.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So I thought about this. How fitting, has anybody ever mentioned this to you, that your last name is Moon and you teach yoga?
All the time. I constantly have to tell people, they're like, well, that's not your real last name. Like, that's your yoga name. And I'm like, no, like, this isn't a stage name. Like,
yeah,
I'm not like a professional dancer where I've got like this stage name or something like that. Like, this is my real last name. I get it from my dad, but it's very, very fitting.
It's so fitting. I love that. It's almost like you planned it. So cool.
I know. It's a perfect little name. Everyone's like, you should open your own studio and call it this or this or that. And I was like, slow down. Let's pump the brakes. Maybe.
Yeah. One day at a time.
People ask me that all the time, if it's in my plans to open my own studio or brick and mortar or something like that. And, it's really not at this point in my journey. I want to invest in so many other things before I feel like I'm tied down to one place. Because when I think back to, when I started making this journey into a healthy lifestyle and when I found my roots in yoga, I remember in my first teacher training, at the end of our training, the teacher talking to us about how all of these resorts all over the world are constantly looking to hire yoga teachers, to come for the weekend or come for the week. And I remember that day thinking, I don't know how I'm going to make that happen, but I'm going to make it happen. Yeah. And it turns out I didn't even need these other resorts. It was just building it for myself,
Yeah. So,
and I constantly think of like that old movie. I don't know if you've ever saw Field of Dreams. I think it's from Field of Dreams. And it's like that whisper from the clouds, like, if you build it, they will come.
Oh,
and I love
I've not seen that, but that's so pretty.
I love that. And I say it, just build it, they'll come. Build it, they'll come. Build it, they'll come. Yeah.
So true. And it's like, people get discouraged, whether if it's MLM or building their own thing. It's like, when I've heard this before and I love it. Jess Ekstrom said it. I don't know where she got it from or if it's her original saying, but it's just because you hear crickets doesn't mean nobody's listening. And it's like, we take, like, if we post something on social media and nobody likes it, or that doesn't mean that they're not listening. That, a lot of people are not, I don't forget what they call them. They're doers and then watchers or something like that. It's like, they don't, they're watching, but they're not hitting the like button or whatever it is, or taking action.
100%. When I left the studio that I used to teach at, I had an abundance of messages that came into my inbox saying like, oh my gosh, I'm going to miss you and your classes. And there were quite a few, what I would say were like wild cards. Yeah. People who, they're taking yoga at 5:00, 6:00 in the morning. They're not really like awake or, really like talkative with you at the time, but these wild cards that would reach out to me and just say like, you have no idea what an impact your words had on me. And I remember reading some of those messages and just thinking like, wow, I didn't even think you liked me, let alone that you were listening to me.
Right.
And so, it just goes to show, people hear you, people are listening, even when you think that they're not. And I love that saying. I might use that tomorrow in my yoga class. So
do it.
I absolutely love it.
Yes. So, okay, let's talk your journey about yoga. How did you get into it?
Oh gosh. So I remember back in like high school days, one of my aunts tried to send me like a yoga mat and clothes and tried to get me into it. And it wasn't fitting. I think I was too young. I didn't have the patience for what I thought yoga was at the time. And it wasn't until actually I got sober and I was living in a 90-day rehab facility.
You guys, I wanted to interrupt this episode because tickets are officially on sale for the Become Your Vision Women's Conference on September 26th in Mount Pleasant in South Carolina at the Ion Meeting House, also known as the Ion Chapel. I will be speaking. I'll have a guest speaker. There's going to be giveaways, music, treats, workshops. The energy is high, and you will be surrounded by like-minded women who want to better themselves.
I could not even do a
so when you leave my event,
body
you're going to
so
feel empowered
weak,
to challenge your thoughts
trying
and
to
your
just
critical
figure out
beliefs.
like
you're going to know
you're
that
not
you're
giving
not
me
alone
this
in the
alcohol and
struggles
these
that
drugs
you
anymore.
face.
And I don't know how I
You're
feel.
going to
And my body was
experience
just so
breakthroughs
irregular,
through
and I
the
just would
workshops
fall.
that I
I would belly
create.
flop to the ground.
You're going to feel so
But
connected to
something
yourself
in
and
it
other
was
women in that
helpful.
room
It was
because
something to like
we
focus
are
my
all
mind
so
and my
much
body on.
alike in terms
And
of the
so
hardships we have
she
faced
introduced
and
that
the struggles
to me,
that we
and sure enough,
deal with
I
every
started
single
doing
day.
it every
It's
morning at
our
rehab.
critical inner voice,
Just
and it
these
can be
basic
so
sun
mean
salutations she showed
sometimes.
me, and then
So,
it was
like
an
I said, I will
all-women's
be
center.
speaking.
And
I'm
then
going
the
to share
girls
my story
started
with
joining
you.
me in the
We all
mornings.
have a story,
And then
so
it
I'm going to
became,
share mine
well,
with
Kate,
you.
are you going to lead
I
yoga
have
tomorrow
a guest
morning?
speaker.
Are you going to lead
Her
yoga?
name is LB
Can we do it
Adams. She's
before
a
our
TEDx
first
speaker.
sobriety
She was
meeting?
a TEDx
And I would say,
MC.
yeah.
She's
So
also
I had no
an
idea what I was
author.
doing, but all of a sudden,
You are
I was
just going to
leading
get
this
so much
group of 12,
goodness
15
from
women
her talk.
under a
And then
pavilion
I'm going
at
to have
rehab.
a special
And I was
guest,
like,
and I'm
this
going
is
to keep
very
her a
cool.
surprise. And
you weren't
but she
certified
is
or
a
anything, you just-
remarkable
No, I had
person.
no idea what I was
Super
doing.
inspiring.
Oh my gosh.
But they loved
Super
it, and we
inspiring.
loved it, and you
it's just
know,
gonna be so good
we would
to
just like
listen to
lay
her.
there, and we would
Tickets will go fast
makeshift
because people are
meditate
needing
and
connection
move
again,
our bodies,
wanting to
and
experience
we did
life
it every
and
day.
to literally
And then
become
when
the
was
person
this?
that
This
is
was
their
back
vision.
in,
That's
so
the
I've been
reason I
sober
created
just
this
over
podcast and these
7
events.
years.
So I'm asking,
Congratulations.
why
Yeah,
not
thank you. Yeah, I
And
just
why not
celebrated
now?
7 years not too
So
long
before you
ago,
talk
less than a
yourself
month
out of an
ago.
opportunity
So that was
is
7 years
literally
ago.
knocking on your door.
And then when I was released
Hear
from
that? Yeah,
rehab,
that's me knocking.
I ended up in Charleston.
I want
I'd
you to
never
know
been
that
to Charleston
even
before,
if we've
not
never
even for a
met,
visit.
we're friends.
And,
There's a reason you're listening
but I
to
came
this
here
episode.
because
You
they
need to
had
be
a
there.
women's
You do.
halfway house.
So come by yourself or
that
bring a
was
friend
giving me
or
an interview,
send
and
someone
they
you
was
think
like,
that
okay,
may need
if you're a
this,
good fit,
and
we'll give you a roof over
just
your
want to
head.
remind you that there's
So my
no
sister brought me here,
need to be
and I
scared
did this
or
interview,
nervous
and I was like, I
because
had
you
no
have
idea if
friends
they
in
were
that
going to give me a
room. You just
bed,
haven't met
but
them
they
yet,
did,
and
and so I
want
moved
to
in.
meet you. I really do. So
And
go to the link in
when
my show
I
notes
lived in the
to
women's
purchase your
halfway
tickets.
house,
The
it was
event
up
is
in North
September
Charleston,
26th.
and
You gotta
I had
jump
no
on
money,
this.
no
You guys,
car.
can't wait to see you there.
I was on food stamps, and I had to attend a sobriety meeting every day and get a piece of paper signed that says she went to a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And if I didn't, they wouldn't let me sleep there. So with no money, I had to walk, or what came to be run, 9 miles downtown. That was the closest sobriety meeting. So I became a runner, and I would lace up my shoes and I would run 9 miles, go to a sobriety meeting, get a piece of paper signed, run back.
18 miles every day.
Yes, every day.
Did you do for the weekends?
Yeah, on the weekends.
So 7
Sometimes
days a week. Holy cow.
Yeah. Sometimes I would get rides back from the meetings.
Okay.
You know, someone in the sober room would give me a ride back. Sometimes someone would lend me bus money. So it wasn't every day, but if I didn't have that ride, and I wasn't ready to ask for that help yet. So people would have to offer it to me. But I started getting faster as far as running, the more I did it. And so one day I ran downtown to go to a sober meeting, and I was a little bit early. So I was like, okay, let me keep running. And I was still new to the area. So I started running down what I now know as King Street. And I ran past a yoga studio. And so I stopped, and I was like, oh, yoga, I know this. My sister told me this. And they had flyers outside of their door. And so I picked up a flyer, and sure enough, there was a free community yoga class that was starting like very soon. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to take this free yoga class because I can afford free. And then I'll just go to a later sober meeting. So I stood outside that door, attended a free yoga class. I had no idea what happened. I had no idea what the poses were. I just kept moving, but something happened in that class that like brought me to my knees and broke me open. And it was the breath and the sweat and the movement. And I was just alive. I was alive for the first time, and I don't even know how long. And I was like, I have to have this. And I went to the teacher afterwards, and I said, this is my story. I have no money, but I need this. And she said, you can wash our laundry and clean our floors once a week, and you can do all the yoga you want. And so that was the beginning.
That's such a beautiful story.
It was very cool. And I know that it was meant to be. I know that I was like put right in front of that store on purpose that day. It was like divine intervention. It was the people I needed to meet, the place I needed to be at, and everything just kept unfolding from there.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
So beautiful. So how long were you like taking classes there when you were like, oh, I want to become an instructor?
Oh gosh. I didn't even know I wanted to be an instructor, to be quite honest with you. I was more curious about that process because I knew it was going to be healing for me. I knew that it was going to be very supplemental to the work I was already doing in sobriety and the STEP program that I work there. And I wanted to dig deeper into what was making me feel this way when I did yoga and more about that journey. So I didn't really know that I wanted to be a yoga teacher until I went through the process. So I was probably taking yoga and doing that maybe for a year and a half or so. And then the opportunity presented itself, and someone was able to help me sign up for that program, someone near and dear to my heart. So
wow.
yeah.
Oh, cool. So now, what was I going to say? How many classes were you taking once you were getting like these classes for free?
Oh gosh, I was probably taking about 4 to 5 a week.
Wow.
Yeah, 4 to 5 classes a week when I could. And then it started kind of trailing off as I went because I, then started like getting a job. At first I didn't have a job.
Right.
So once I got a job and had to move on from the halfway house and things like that and be a big girl and start living life again as an adult, it trailed off a little bit there.
Okay.
But I took as often as I could.
I'm thinking about this because I'm like, okay, that's 18 miles a day. That's a lot of time. So how long do you think it took you to get there?
Well, I got a bike eventually.
Okay. So
I got a bicycle. Yeah.
Okay.
So once I got a bicycle, I was able to do a lot more. So I would just kind of like strap my yoga mat to my backpack and like bike the 9 miles. So then things got a little bit more efficient from there.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking, okay, if you have this addiction problem, you want to do, because people are listening like, oh my God, 18 miles and then yoga and blah, blah, blah. But I would imagine with having an addiction, you probably want constant distraction from instead of, doing drugs or drinking.
And I did very early on. I can very in a healthy way say that I did become addicted to exercise and things like that at first, and for me, I think it's different for everyone that's finding their path in sobriety. But for me, that's what I needed at the time. I needed a healthy replacement. And, now it doesn't look like that for me at all. I have a much healthier relationship with exercise and knowing when I'm overdoing it or knowing when too much is there. But at that time, that's what I needed.
That's what you needed.
It was a good distraction for me.
Yeah.
And that's all I'll say. Like, I think it looks different, and there might be people who are sober, who work a similar program that I do, who say like, that's really unhealthy. You just replaced one addiction for another. And I would say, yes, positively, I did. I absolutely did do that, but it worked for me.
And it saved you.
It saved me. 100% saved me.
Wow.
It was the adjunct. It was the two of them together for me that was magic. It was magical.
Just like stopping on that street and then, amazing.
Something clicked.
Yeah. So how long were you in this halfway house and let's start this. Let's go back a little bit. So you said your sister brought you. Was there some kind of like breaking point, or was she worried, or?
As far as my drinking?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, there were so many breaking points. There were so many points where I should have been at my bottom and I never was. I know now that my sister and my dad, they had pretty much gotten to the point where they accepted that it was either going to be a call from the jail or it was going to be a call from the morgue. Because I was just so deep in my addiction to the point of I had accepted that was just my life and I didn't care anymore. And that's when you know you're in trouble, when you stop caring. And I didn't care that that's what my life looked like. I didn't care that I had pushed everyone away. I didn't care that I had DUIs. I didn't care that I was sleeping with people for drugs and money for alcohol. I didn't care that I was unemployable. I didn't give a shit anymore.
Right.
And it was dark and it was ugly and it was lonely. And I was to the point where, I just visited my dad recently a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about how he broke his leg years ago. And I had no idea.
Yeah.
I was so gone.
Right.
Gone, just separate from my family, but separate from, if they told me, it didn't register, because 99% of the time I was blacked out, because I physically had that addiction where I woke up and I put it right back in my body, right back in my body. And so I would wake up feeling disgusted with myself, and I would go right back to the fridge to see what was left over. If there was nothing left over, I would wait. In Florida, 7 a.m. was the time where I could go back to the liquor store. So it was hat, sunglasses, and I didn't have a car because I'd gotten a DUI. So I would walk or bike to go get more. And that was what life looked like. Curtains drawn. Friends were basically users and drinkers at the same status as I was. So.
Yeah. Where would you get money to do this? Would you just have to steal it?
I wasn't ever I never stole direct money. I was bartending and serving at restaurants. So I made fast cash.
Yeah.
And then I would just blow it that same night. But it got to the point where I was blacked out at work. So then I would go to shifts at work and not recall anything until, I don't know if I got fired or if I quit. I don't know how it happened. I have no recollection of that at my last job. But at that point, it was all about who I knew. And so I knew people who had drugs. And so either they would just party with me, or it looked unfortunately, like a sexual relationship in order to get that.
Yeah.
As far as alcohol went, there was a point where I started selling my furniture, things like that, started slowly going out the door. And that was at my very bottom. That was it. Those were the last few weeks is when I started going out that way.
So how long did you what got you into drinking and drugs? Because it seems like was your dad or your sister in
my mom was an alcoholic.
Okay.
It runs on that side of the family. It's very dominant. I have aunts, uncles, cousins, it's just there. It's a big Irish Catholic family.
Yeah.
And so it's there. And I watched my mom going through it when I was growing up. And I think I know I always had it in my head of, I'm very aware of what alcoholism looks like. I know how destructive it is. I've been to 12-step meetings. I've been the little girl sitting in the other room while my mom's in 12-step meetings. And so I thought that I would be able to stop it. And obviously I know now that's not how it works. And so my mother struggled. She went in and out of rehab and things like that until she passed away unexpectedly when I was 15. And the autopsy shows that she was sober when she did pass away. So that was not the cause. She died in a sudden car accident.
Oh,
and
goodness. I
was at this age of 15 years old where, it's a pivotal time in a young woman's life. And it was devastating. It was devastating for me and for my sister and for my dad, he didn't know what to do, losing his ex-wife.
I was going to ask if they were still together at the time.
No, they were not together any longer.
The mother of his kids.
They had been separated, and, we were living with my father when it happened, but, it doesn't negate, how hard that was for him.
Yeah.
And I give him so much credit. I didn't at the time, I did not give him the credit that he deserved, but I see it now.
Yeah.
I see it now, how that affected him.
Sure. And he probably still like he had to probably, I'm just, I don't know, guessing, but he probably had, well, it was his mother of his kids and he probably really loved her, but it was her sickness that most likely tore them apart, I'm guessing.
100%. 100%. I think it just got to this point of like, he couldn't do it for himself or watch it anymore.
Yeah.
And, I think that I know that truly was just that was the catalyst for me going into this place of this dark place and feeling like I was this young girl that walked into her high school hallways and I felt like everyone was turning their back and whispering like, oh my God, there she is. Like they didn't know how to act around me. And, and I didn't know anyone else's parents who had passed away, and if there were other kids in my school, like I didn't know them and my friends didn't know them. So I was the first among my group of friends, really, besides one girl who I knew of to have a parent pass away. And so no one at that age knows how to deal with that as a friend.
Right.
And so I felt very alone overnight. And I didn't know how to deal with the feelings or talk about them. And so I got to a place where I missed her so much. She was my best friend. I missed her so much that I felt like I just would rather be with her. So I got into this place of cutting. And so I would get really, really sad and I would just cut to take my mind to a different place and focus the pain somewhere else rather than my heart, rather than my head. And my dad found out, my sister and my dad found out, they saw some bandages around my wrists and I got put in a center, not completely against my will. I knew I was harmful to myself. And I didn't want to feel that way. And, so I stayed at, somewhere to get some mental help and put me on suicide watch and things like that. And they put me on a lot of medication. And it was anxiety and it was depression and it was sleep medication and all these things. And so then when I returned back to school, I was like zombied out.
Right.
Like no emotion. There was no high, there was no low, there were no tears, there were no laughs. And then I found drinking.
Yeah.
And drinking was like, whoa, I felt everything. Yeah. And I felt like I was like on top of the world and I felt good and I felt sexy at 16 years old. And that's trouble, And then it just spun from there. I stopped taking my medications and I started taking everything that I could get my hands on that made me feel something. And the drugs started right then. 16 years old, I got into a heavy stage of ecstasy. Heavy stage of ecstasy.
Yeah.
And then it just got harder and harder.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm sorry to hear about your mom. It's like trying to hold back tears here because I can just feel as a 15-year-old girl, the darkness, the sadness, and the pain of losing your best friend, your mom, so when you became or when you went to this halfway house, I can imagine being on drugs and alcohol for so long. Like, what did it feel like coming off of that?
I was so tired. Honestly, all my body wanted to do was sleep. I was fortunate in that I did not experience a heavy dose of like DTs, like delirium tremens. My body just really, truly wanted to sleep.
Okay.
I did have, I don't know if it was like hidden injuries or injuries that like I was just too intoxicated to feel. But I did have a lot of things come up in rehab that I had never felt before in my body. to the point where I was like scratching myself so hard. I was bleeding in the shower, and, them wanting to call the ambulance and things like that. But I didn't necessarily have the shakes. I didn't hallucinate, anything like that. And I feel for the people who go through that. I can imagine what it feels like to have those hallucinations. Alcohol is the most fatal to detox from. It's more fatal than heroin, anything like that. Alcohol has the most fatalities from detoxing. And it's because people underestimate it.
Right.
And for the most part, people develop a higher tolerance for alcohol because it's legal. So you're putting so much into your body, and your body becomes so dependent on it to a point that you don't even comprehend. And then you just say, well, I'm going to do this cold turkey, and people die from it.
Yeah.
So it is highly recommended to be detoxing under supervision, whether it's at a hospital or a detox facility, where they, if it's needed, that they can assist you with medications or with small doses of alcohol, so that your body doesn't go into shock.
Wow.
It's not unknown that people have to come off of alcohol with small doses of putting it back in their system, because it can be very fatal.
I did not realize that. Wow.
Yeah.
So interesting. So do you have friends that you met like in the halfway house that you still like, was there anybody like in particular that you like connected with, or?
Oh gosh. Yeah. I connected with a lot of the women in rehab. Unfortunately, I don't know of anyone at my rehab who stayed sober. I hope that maybe some people did, but the people that I was closest with in rehab didn't remain sober. Now in my halfway house in Charleston, I made such a couple really, really good friends. I remember this beautiful Black woman, and she was like the hard ass, like she was an older woman and she had been there the longest. So she had privilege to have a car. She was the only one that had a car. And so she was like queen. She was queen of the house. And she was just this badass. And one day she invited me to go to a 12-step meeting with her. And I was like, yeah, I would love a ride. And she took me, and then she took me to Goodwill, and she bought me my first pair of jeans from Goodwill.
Aww.
I'd lost so much weight. Yeah. And so she bought me a new pair of jeans, and I'll never forget her for that. And then I had, why am I?
Friend.
Oh, gosh. Called her grandma.
Okay.
She was the one, God, she had, she just had this beautiful personality, and I called her grandma because she was old enough to be my grandma, but she was like a cool granny. And she was in the room next to me, and she was the one where I couldn't sleep. I would tap, tap, tap on her door at night and say, "Are you awake?" And she'd say, "Yeah." And I said, will you sit outside and have a cigarette with me? And we would talk and talk and talk for hours. And I hope she's doing well. And then there's one other woman. She was awesome. It's just amazing to watch people's journeys. But yeah, I made amazing connections. Women's faces are just literally ingrained in my mind because of the conversations we had and the moments we shared. And I'll never forget them.
Yeah. It's a beautiful bond that nobody else could understand except, you going through it in that same place.
Yeah.
So, do you still struggle with sobriety?
Oh, I have my good days and bad days. I have more good days than bad days.
Yeah.
Now that time has progressed, but I have my moments, and I can't lie about it. Most of the time it's going out to dinner, right? Like a nice dinner, say you're like going to a nice Charleston dinner with friends, and romanticizing that one glass of red wine. It was always like red wine for me. Okay. For me, red wine represented one of my favorite aunts, who's like this very well-known painter and creative and the writer of the family. And just, it always represented that to me in a sense. And this status symbol almost. And so I romanticize it sometimes, and it doesn't bother me when people at my table order drinks at all anymore. But every once in a while, I'll catch myself looking at the glass from across the table, and then I just have to check myself, and things like that, and remind myself that I cannot drink like a normal person.
Right.
It looks like a sexy one glass of wine to them. To me, it looks like the one glass of wine followed by a bottle of tequila, followed by another liquor store run and this. And it's probably like 2 weeks later that I might say like, this probably needs to stop.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, it's never just one drink. Never.
And there's so many people.
Never was.
Right. And there's so many people like that, like my mom, and I talked to her about this because she's been sober for a while now too. And she was like, yeah, once in a while, like, yeah, it just looks like fun or whatever. And then it's like, but I can't, so that's not the type of person. I know I can think of a few listeners right now listening that they're on this journey of sobriety, because it is a journey, right? And so I know everything you're saying they can relate to. And I wanted to ask you this too, because so the other day I thought it was so brave of you. First of all, you went to a friend's birthday party by yourself. I feel like if you're drinking or not, that's hard. And then you went sober. Mm-hmm. How do you find, I guess, the courage and like if you're feeling uncomfortable, if like there's nobody to talk to, or what do you tell yourself while you're there to help you I don't know, get through the rest of dinner if you're maybe uncomfortable?
Honestly, that's a great question. And anyone who is listening and is starting their journey into sobriety and having those moments of discomfort, there's advice that was given to me that I love passing on. It's when you're going to these things, always have your own ride home. So that moment hits and you've got to go, that you're highly uncomfortable, you're getting squirrely or antsy, and it's becoming too tempting. Have your own ride home. And then just always right away, like I go straight to the bartender or my waitress and I say like, hey, I'm not drinking tonight. I would love for you to just like keep a bottle of sparkling water behind the bar or something like that. And just like keep my glass full too, know? Yeah. And like, it's this understanding, like, look me in the eye. I'm going to tell you like, hey, I'm not drinking tonight. Can you help me out a little bit?
Right.
And most of the time they get it, but that took years for me to gain the confidence to do that. Yeah. But always have something in your hand, because I came to learn about myself. It's almost like, it's a physical action I'm used to taking, right? Like rim of glass to mouth, rim of glass to mouth. I get uncomfortable. I have nothing to say, rim of glass to mouth, so it doesn't matter what's in the glass. Just have a glass in your hand. Doesn't have to look like everyone else's, where if you have that uncomfortable moment, like sparkling water to the mouth, sparkling water to the mouth, cranberry juice, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to like a house party or something like that, same thing. Bring your, some sober people don't drink kombucha because it has trace amounts of alcohol. Mm-hmm. I love kombucha. I'm not drinking it to get drunk. I'm drinking it because I like the taste and it's beneficial for my health. Yeah. So I'll bring my own kombucha or my own sparkling waters to the house get together, and I'll make myself at home in that sense.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's great advice. Earlier I was reading your bio, I guess, that you are a legacy Lululemon ambassador. What does legacy mean?
It means that my official 2-year contract is over.
Okay.
So I was a Lululemon ambassador for the Mount Pleasant store here in Charleston. And basically you're signed on under a 2-year contract, and your picture goes up on their wall, and, you get to do community events and sport all their latest and greatest clothing and give them great feedback. And they're wonderful at giving you leadership events and conferences and things to help you really grow into who you are and whatever it is that you're doing for the community. And so my 2 years is up. So I am now a lifelong legacy Lululemon ambassador. So
that's so cool.
yeah, I'll constantly be tied to them. There's opportunities for me every year in their company to learn more, do more, and network more. So I'm so grateful for that. And they've got just so many resources globally.
Wow.
So it's really neat to have that kind of at your fingertips and know that you've got support from them always.
That's so cool. So it's not just about like free clothes or discounts.
No. I mean, that's all great. And that's wonderful because, you know, when you do yoga and fitness for a living, like you go through a lot of clothes. Like I'm sweaty 10 minutes into class. So I need all the clothes, and their quality is outstanding, of course.
Yeah.
But no, it's about a lot more than that. And even since, you know, I've started building my own company and my own brand, there's been conversation with some of my leaders from Lululemon, like, how can we help you? What can we do? How can we support you? And so it's just constant and forever. And that's wonderful.
I love that. Yes. So cool. So talk about, when Gunnar and Q were on here, they talked about your retreat in Tulum. Like, talk about, was that your first one that you created, or how did that come about?
No. So my retreats are called Rise, and that's just kind of my branded name for the work that I offer on my retreats, because it's so much more than yoga. You know, a lot of the time we're thinking yoga retreats, we sit by the pool or by the beach, or, you know, yes, we do those things and we do yoga twice a day. And there's more work to be done, because yoga, while most of us are attracted to yoga for the physical practice, you know, whether it's, okay, I need to move my body, or I want to learn to stand on my hands, or whatever it is, 99% of the time we're attracted to yoga for the physical properties of what it gives us. But yoga is so much more than that. And it's a lifestyle. And there's these 8 limbs of a path of the yoga lifestyle we walk. And I resonate most with a limb of yoga called svadhyaya, which is self-study. And so that's what I offer on my retreats, is I walk people through this 6-day workshop, or however long the retreat is. 6 days is usually ideal for the work we do, of self-study work. And I walk them through, there's modules every day of what our group work looks like, what your individual work looks like. And basically we start at the beginning of like, what's your story? Why are you here? Who are you mad at? What's happened? Who do you hold resentment towards? And then we peel the layers back, peel it back. We look at the what happened, the who was involved, how it made us feel, how we showed up, how we want to show up moving forward. Because what I found in my journey into sobriety, and just the years that I've spent trying to just be a better person, is that I can be so quick to just say, well, this person did this and they made me feel that way. Well, they did that, but I allowed them to make me feel that way. Right. So I have control over my feelings, or how I show up, and how I respond and react to things. And so really looking at our parts and working with people that might be able to help us see something we can't see, right? I believe that self can't always see self. We can be blinded by our own hearts, by our own passions, by our own beliefs. And to have an outside perspective of, well, I hear you. I hear that's very hurtful. I empathize with you. And have you ever considered that maybe this person felt this way? Or have you ever thought about this? And so having an outside perspective, I've found really has opened my eyes to more than the way that I see things.
Yeah.
And it's been very helpful for me in looking at myself, and it's opened a lot of people's eyes that I've done this work with, and healed a lot of traumas, and healed a lot of burdens of heavy shit that they're carrying around that they don't need to carry around. And so it's been very liberating and very rewarding. So that's the Rise work that we do on these retreats. And Tulum was, I think, my 5th retreat that I've done, actually.
Tulum. That's how you said it. I probably mispronounced it.
That's okay. Tulum.
Tulum. Oh,
So,
so, and then you mentioned Belgium before. What were you there for?
oh gosh, I went to Europe. I was actually attending a retreat.
Okay.
So I started hosting retreats way before I ever attended one, which is kind of a backwards way of doing it.
Wow, totally.
I was ready to get in there, and I'm like, well, I
Yeah.
don't know what other people do, but I know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And I just did what felt true to me. But I was attending a retreat in Northern Italy with a woman who has now become a mentor to me. She teaches yoga in Savannah. Her name is Meg Shuba. You can find her on Instagram. She's wonderful. And I was attending her retreat in Northern Italy, and it was cheaper to fly into Belgium.
Wow.
So I saved the money and flew into Belgium, into Brussels, instead of flying into Milan. And the money that I saved on the flight, I was able to spend like 5 days in Belgium by myself.
Oh, so cool.
So I did that instead.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then did Northern Italy for the retreat. And then I went to Venice, and then I went to Iceland, and it was incredible.
How long were you overseas?
I did like 3 weeks.
Okay. Yeah, you kind of have to.
Big trip. And I was just in a place where I was able to do it. And I was very, very grateful that I was employed by someone who was able to let me do that at the time.
Oh, such a cool experience.
Yeah.
So how many retreats do you typically do a year? And I'm sure last year was
last year was funky. But this year already I've done 2. And that'll be it for this year. 2 is the most I've done so far in a year. And that's always because I've had a full-time job on top of trying to do it.
Where was the other location?
Earlier this year was right outside Asheville in Lake Lure.
Okay.
So a big house on the lake. So we did, the domestic ones I found are easier for me to do, or more cost efficient to do at big Airbnbs. And then my sister is actually kind of a self-made chef. So my sister, I've been so grateful. She's been able to chef retreats for me that I do domestically.
So cool.
It's incredible, because that's a dream come true for the 2 of us.
Yeah.
To partner and do work together after everything we've been through together.
Yeah.
Just our childhood and losing our mom and our dad, raising us and doing all of that. It was a lot to go through at a young age. And she's just always been my guiding light. She's my rock. And then for her to not give up on me as a sister and be there in my darkest hours when I was very, very sick and unwell in the depths of my alcoholism and drug addiction, and to support me in coming on the other side. This is a dream come true for us to do something healthy and mindful and nourishing, to give back to ourselves and to other people is just beyond our wildest dreams. So
cool. Now, was she older, younger?
She's 2 years older.
Okay.
And she lives in the upstate of South Carolina on a small farm with her husband and 2 kids.
Aww.
So they grow their own food and raise chickens and pigs. And if they don't have the food that they raise on their own, they do a lot of trade with other farmers right there in the community to get the food they need.
How neat is that?
Very neat. It's very cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Very off the grid type stuff.
It's very neat. And she's so knowledgeable. I mean, she could take a walk on her property, and what we think is a weed, she knows all the health benefits of it. She knows if it's edible. She knows how to make a tea out of it or how to make a paste out of it. And she just is amazing.
Oh, so neat.
Knowledgeable.
So neat. I feel like I can talk to you all night. We'll talk while we're on the topic of retreats. You said there are some, let's talk about your collaborations, and let's start with that collaboration.
Okay. So life is just so big right now, and I'm so grateful, and I'm truly in awe of everything that's unraveling. So right now, collaboration wise, like you mentioned in my bio, I'm the new yoga director at KOR4 Elite Fitness. So that, of course, is a huge collaboration. And I'm so grateful and honored to be a part of that and have the opportunity to build a new yoga program from the ground up. So that is starting to take shape, and we'll be opening our permanent space. We're in a temporary space right now, but we'll be opening hopefully in early October here in West Ashley.
Okay.
I collaborate with local, holistic healing places all over. I do some pop-ups with Connection Health Center, which you came, and that's how we met. My chiropractor, Dr. Courtney Brandenburg, and myself do a lot of pop-ups of chiropractic and yoga care. On September 19th, which is a Sunday, I have a great event coming up at Synchronicity, and they are located in Mount Pleasant, and they have just a whole wellness arena of salt caves and massage chairs and cold plunges and cryotherapy, the whole 9 yards. So tickets are available for that. You can click the link in my bio. The exclusive price for people to do a 90-minute session with all of their wellness offerings plus yoga, those tickets are sold out, but there still are general admission tickets available. And those include an hour of yoga plus a 2-minute cold plunge and a Kate Moon, again, I can't even say my last name, Kate Moon mocktail, right? Because we are sober living. And so it's a mocktail made by Get Groovy. And so there'll be a Kate Moon mocktail included with that price as well. So the link's in my bio on Instagram, and those are available that September 19th.
Awesome. That's
and then cool. I have 5 retreats next year. So we are going big. 2 of my retreats that I've already announced are sold out.
Where are those?
So Zion National Park is in late March. That one is sold out. And then Costa Rica in Nosara, Costa Rica is sold out for late May.
Wow.
So I will be announcing, mark this in your calendar, in your phone. If you are listening right now, put it in your calendar. September 7th at 7 p.m. on Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. on Instagram. I will be live, and I'll be announcing my 3 retreats for the rest of the year. And I can't tell you where they are, but I can tell you one of them is early April. That's domestic. One of them is second week of September. That is international. And the third one is the second week of November. And that is also international.
Ooh, oh my gosh, you got us all excited.
Mark your calendars. The first Zion retreat sold out in 14 minutes, which is just insane. It's insane. This is what Q does. It's all her. It's all her. She just knows how to make things happen. And then Costa Rica sold out, I think, in 5 hours.
That's insane.
Yeah. So cool. September 7th, 7 p.m. You've got to get on right away and see where the retreats are at and claim your spot. They will
awesome. Tell us, I'm going to put this in the show notes, but tell the listeners what your Instagram is and what your website is.
Absolutely. Super easy. It's my name at Kate Moon Yoga. So that's my Instagram handle at Kate Moon Yoga. And then my website is katemoonyoga.com.
Awesome.
Super easy.
Yes. Super excited about that. Let me finish here. There's a couple things that I'm like, I wanted to touch on. Is it hard finding a partner that is on board with your sobriety?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I am basically, as you can tell, like I'm an open book. So it's usually like the first date that I am like, look, this is who I am. This is how I live. Because like, let's not waste anyone's time. Like if you're here to party, like that's awesome. Like I've been there, done that, and like go do your thing, but like I'm not your person. Yeah. And so there are people who have walked away, but then there's people who have like loved me very hard because of it. And it's been incredible to have that support and also watch people kind of on their own terms, just slowly find more sobriety in their life, if not all the way. They stop drinking as much, not because I've asked them to, but because they just fall into sync with me. And so I've met some beautiful people in relationship with that. Yeah.
So cool. And you're so good with words. And how do you find like the inspiration when you are like teaching? Like, what do I say? You know, when you're like, you want to set a certain tone.
Yeah. Honestly, I talk a lot from because again, I think we're all humans, or the way I usually say it is, I think we're all spiritual beings having a human experience on this planet.
Right.
And so the more we share how human we are, the more connected I feel to you and you to me. So I usually, like, before I teach a class, I have my morning coffee or whatever it is. And I just close my eyes and I'm like, what's going on with you? Like, what are you feeling? What are you experiencing in life? And if I don't draw inspiration from that, I make sure that like what pops up on my social media feed or in my mailbox, in my, my snail mailbox, anything like that is full of inspiration and uplifting or real rawness. I love following writers and poetry and big thinkers and public speakers and listening to podcasts. It's huge for me. And I'm like, oh, I want that. I call them little gold nuggets. And I'll whip out my phone into the notepad and I'll be like, gold nugget.
Yeah.
And I also believe in giving people credit where credit is due. If it's like, hey, this is from Oprah, like, I'm gonna let you know, like, I got this from Oprah.
Right.
Not me, but like, I usually put a spin and I'm like, this is how I relate to it. Because it's like, it's one thing just to like quote a book, but it's like, this is why I'm sharing this with you, because this is how it makes me feel. Because people can hear words all the time and they're like, ooh, yeah, that's juicy. But it's like, they have a hard time. Like, how do I relate to it? So most of the time, if I tell them like what it means to me, they're like, oh, and then it gets them thinking a little bit more.
I love that. I love that. It's been so much fun.
I mean, I could talk to you for days.
I know. I feel so connected to you. I'm sure the listeners do. Like, feel like this in the course of an hour or so, like on this journey of like highs. And then I'm like, I have tears in my eyes. And then, we're laughing. And so.
And I mean, and I saw the tears in your eyes, like I could just tell like you're a loving mother and that you feel hard and you love hard. And I think that's such a beautiful gift to hear people and truly put yourself in their shoes. It's a gift that a lot of people don't have. And I see it, and that's a beautiful quality.
Oh, thank you.
It really is.
Thank you so much. You're a beautiful person. And we're so excited to hear about these retreats. We're going to end the show here, guys. If you love this episode, I have a few questions off the air that I want to ask Kate, because we got to continue this conversation. But if you enjoyed this episode, if you pulled anything from this episode, please take a screenshot, tag Kate Moon Yoga, right?
Kate Moon Yoga.
Kate Moon Yoga and myself, and share it on your social media, or also send it to somebody. If you know somebody that is going through a hard time or went through a hard time and they can take anything from Kate's journey, please do that, because you're giving a gift to somebody else as well. So thank you so much, you guys. And remember, you got this. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you love this episode, make sure you are subscribed so you know when more episodes come available. My goal is to inspire others to become their vision, and one way to get the word out is with reviews. I would really appreciate it if you left an honest review on iTunes, and it would mean so much to me. Thanks again, and remember to go after the life you want. Bye, guys.